We are in control as a composer of the emotions, meaning that if you see the dog running with the baby and I put some scary music, you would assume that they're running from or to something scary. If they're running and I put happy music, we would assume that they escaped something and now everything is great. So music can really do a lot of things, especially in this type of movie where we do not have a lot of dialogue. So it's a little more like the Tom and Jerry style. We hear a lot of jazz influence. So we do have a lot of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s in there. So I wanted to stay kind of true to this genre, and then of course still incorporate something that comes from me, from my time, a little more modern percussion sounds that you would not use back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But it plays very well into some of the scenes where you see the monsters are raising from the grave, you know. And speaking of monsters raising from the grave, since I also wrote songs, the songs should not be, you know, sounding 1940, 50. What I wanted to incorporate into the movie and the songs is a relationship between some periods in time. I feel that there's a relationship between some of these adventures scores and the 80s. And the reason why I say this is because when you look at the music video Thriller and you hear the sounds are very electronic, you know, there's some different synthesizers that Michael's using that are really cool, but yet the composition is not like a 2020 composition. I've made an arrangement here. You can see the synth here, which is very classical, like a string arrangement. This is Michael's chords. Bass line. With a lot of music in the 80s, there were some guitar solos, and I kind of miss those guitar solos because it plays quite well into orchestra. And one of the reasons it probably does that is because, again, it's more sophisticated compared to today's music because you're actually allowing scales, which is a guitar solo would typically be scales played, the same with saxophone solos. So you would have a scale that are matching the chord progression to be played in there, which is a lot of notes, which we have gotten rid of since 2015 maybe. To say, okay, if I'm gonna do songs for this movie, I want to have that room that was still allowed in the style in the 80s. And so when you talk about these different rules that people came up with, it's every song had a guitar solo, or every song had a saxophone solo. And then later, every song did not have a guitar solo deliberately, or any solos later on. So there's a ton of rules, and the rules are not really something that we necessarily walk around and tell each other, but as a composer, we get them all the time. Constantly, we're told, "Oh no, we don't do that anymore. Now we don't do lip sync. We don't see the character singing anymore." That's so last year. And what's so fun about it is that people are so confident in this is the way it is right now. I always knew as a composer, musician, piano player that was generally curious and interested in sounds, I always knew there is no rhyme or reason to this. I refused and still refuse to relate trend to music. I wanted to be a little more true to a few things. One was music that plays well into an orchestra, so we don't get this orchestral score and then cut to a song where we're like, wow, that was like jumping from one universe to another. Not relatable. So I wanted to have a connection there. And then I also wanted to say, okay, in the 80s, there was a lot of horror movies, the thriller incorporates a lot of that in itself. So to take this type of sound, which is a beat driven, that are very theatrical, and honor this sort of vibration that can be directly related to the rest of the score from the movie. I thought that was a great idea. You can run, you can hide, but you can't escape reality. Gotta fight to survive paranormality.
Ever feel like you're not alone? Like the eyes of unseen watchers are upon you?